So you have a itinerary and you love overlanding. You have plans to do it big on the trails and some super glamping. One ideas, tip, news and reviews. A podcast the first rate and here just for you. You don't have to think about it. Join us and be about it. Something interesting we want to hear about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Welcome to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints podcast.
Sponsored by Midland, communication for every adventure. The industry leader in radio communication technology and innovation for over 50 years. Sponsored by My Medic. Sponsored by Tembo Tusk. Sponsored by Shower Pouch. Sponsored by DeMoss Collective, mission built and made for mobility. Sponsored by BrewTrek. Sponsored by Hard Impact Designs.
Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, Phil, how's it going?
Good. We're doing this special edition of the Random Waypoints. It's July 5th, the day after July 4th. I thought that this would be, well, a lot of things have happened with you. We just had Overland Expo Pacific Northwest, and there's a lot of things in the news that are directly correlated with overlanding.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to start, though, with the viewers in mind. They asked a question, so I'm going to kind of spring this on you, Mike.
Sure.
So let me just read exactly what they wrote. You are going with a crew for a weekend camping and doing trails. Is there an obligation to tell the others you will be bringing a spouse or significant other? Should he not bring it up due to putting the host under pressure? Has it ever come up that one of your friends always brings his significant other to events, trails, etc., without anyone extending an invitation to them?
Wow.
So let's start with so you're going with the crew for a weekend camping and doing trails. Is there an obligation to tell the others about your significant other coming along?
You know, I mean, wow, this one's full of, this one's a loaded question, right? We're starting out the podcast rough here. So I'm assuming that based on the way that you're wording this question, that somebody is organizing this trip and has invited a number of people to come along. And when I say people, in my mind, what I'm saying is, let's just use me. I'm organizing the trip, and I've now invited 4 other vehicles to join me. And so if I look at it from that perspective, I would say, no, I don't think it's not. So I guess I'm looking at it as it's a vehicle thing where I'm inviting 4 other rigs to come with me, whether or not that's 1 passenger or 2 passengers on board. I'm not sure that matters. So I don't know. Now, if you worded this question like, well, we've just come out, we're going to do a boys trip this weekend or something. Maybe that's a different scenario. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure from the way this was worded, it's the latter.
Okay.
So you basically, you contacted your boys and said, we're going to do the supercalifragilistic trail this weekend.
Sure. Yeah. And that one gentleman can't or doesn't want to go without his significant other. Is that where we're going with this?
So let's flesh this out. You're doing the event, right? And I'm that other guy. Usually what happens is we do a couple of FaceTimes. We've got a text going back and forth. Who's bringing what's going on, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And you never mentioned anything about your spouse. Nobody else has mentioned anything about their spouse, but I know I'm bringing mine.
Well, it seems a little weird because, as you suggest, typically if you're going to go on a successful camping trip, let's call it,
Mm-hmm.
you would prepare in advance. So it is helpful to know who's bringing what kind of gear, who's bringing what to eat, where do we expect to stay, what kind of camping gear do I need, what's the temperatures going to be like. And to me, one of the important things probably would be how many people are going. Like, it would be nice to know that from a preparing a dinner standpoint, or from an emergency standpoint, how many souls are on board, I guess, right? That's how I would look at it from a pilot perspective. And if you were going to have this many conversations, whether you're doing it by a Zoom call or by telephone or email chain or something, to answer your question, would I think it's weird that you never mention it? Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of wondering where you're coming from, Mike. And this is why I'm saying that. You've never had like some boys and you do boy things, and then
Sure.
there's this one guy that just arbitrarily brings his girl, and the rule it, and you don't know about, or no, there's an understanding you don't bring your girl.
Correct. Oh no, I know what you're saying.
Okay, so all right, so address that, because that was the most politically, and we don't do that on here. That was some super political correct garbage you just said.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the debate again. No. No. Do I think it's cool from a dude standpoint? We're going to go on a camping
That's
trip?
the question.
That's whacking weird.
Okay.
No.
And so now I finally got your truthful answer, and I agree. Should he not bring it up due to putting the host under pressure?
Well,
we've both been hosts before, and you tend to want to cater to people. And a lot of times you allow things simply because it was requested, but you really didn't want to do it.
Well, I'm a say it like it is kind of guy, and I don't mince words. So I would say it. I would approach the host. And if I was a host, I damn sure would want you to tell me. I want you to tell me about that. And by the way, if I was the host and I didn't like it, I would be, no, dude, that's not cool. That's not what this is about.
Right.
That's me.
We have been at events where basically something like what we've just described has been sabotaged because of that. I'm not going to get into the details, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. But let's take it a step further. It doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, so right now we're using a scenario where it's like potentially somebody's significant other or the opposite sex, I guess. Right. That's kind of what we were just using that as an example. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. You and I were in another situation, which we're not going to mention names either, where we had a group of, I'll call it like-minded people together, and then suddenly somebody...
Time out. I think it's time to reveal a secret about the question.
Okay.
This was sent to me by a lady.
Okay. I don't know if that helps or hurts.
No, because I purposely tried to give off the air that this was the opposite.
Sure.
So I wanted people to see it from both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's simply bad etiquette.
Yes.
To bring somebody.
It's bad etiquette to invite anybody along, regardless of gender, regardless of whether they're a partner or not, if they weren't invited. Because I was about to use the example of you and I were in this group where there was a group of like-minded people of both genders, by the way, and somebody invited somebody else outside of that quote circle of people without telling anybody else. And then it's weird. And that person may arguably not fit into that group. And that has nothing to do with, necessarily being in a relationship or being what gender they are. So I think you should definitely disclose who's coming. I mean, just, yeah, no brainer to me.
Okay. And there was another part that I wanted to totally flesh out that question. The last part was, what about pets?
Mm.
Should you have to? Should you need to? Is it a good thing to say, hey, I've got 2 Great Danes, I've got 2 Yorkies, whatever it may be?
Well, once again, I think that goes along to the planning stages of the trip. So there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, we could be planning on going into an area that's been by the organizer and been, anyways, deemed unsafe for animals. Because look, let's put it this way: an animal can increase the complication of the trip. If you're in let's start with a national park area where animals are not allowed in the first place, or you're in a place where there's predators and it adds an added risk to the camp. There could be people allergic to the animal. There's a lot that goes into that. So I think that's something. Yeah, that shouldn't be a sneak attack either.
And there's another side to it too. That some people. The reason I'm thinking that the person brought it up, because I've experienced this too. People expect equal treatment for the pet as the group.
Yes.
And
agreed.
I love animals, but not everybody loves animals. And
right.
you know what I'm saying? So I think it's something that you just don't introduce to the group at the last minute.
I like to know if I'm the organizer.
Yeah. And the reason why I think this is a good subject is because in both instances, bringing a significant other or pets, I have seen a multitude of times where people knew the case and they were just going to put it on you at the last minute. It was a strategic plan to just pop up with the dogs or pop up with their husband.
Yeah. And I think that's where we're going wrong here. Because I'm probably in a lot of scenarios, if you had brought it up in advance, maybe it's not such a big deal. But if you don't bring it up, you potentially can put the entire group. So let's just use a dog. I mean, sounds stupid, but in the mind of everybody, there was no animals coming, and then somebody decides to bring a dog without telling anybody. And, we're going to roll out of camp at 6:00, but oh, wait, we're late leaving till 6:10 because somebody had to walk the dog. The dog didn't go to the bathroom yet, whatever the scenario is. So there are considerations, and that might be an exaggeration a little bit, but there's certainly, I just think clarity and being open in life in general, but certainly when you are involved in a organized trip with other people and other vehicles, it's the right thing to do.
And we all like to look strong in front of others, but there are people out there who have allergies. They're allergic to dogs and cats.
Yeah, for sure. I am allergic to the trees here in Redmond, Oregon, apparently, because you probably can tell. I'm like, oh, God, it's all of us who are having this problem.
So let's get into that, bro. That's the first thing we'll start with is why
in the hell am I in Redmond, Oregon?
Yes, for those who don't already know, because it's been all over the internet. But let's cover. People have been. I'm like, why? You know him. Why are you contacting me about him? A lot of people have asked me, how are you doing? So on the record, Mike, how are you doing? What happened first?
So unfortunately, Overland Expo weekend here in Redmond, Oregon was excellent. And we, as I usually do, stay over on Sunday evenings. And there was a group of us that stayed over Sunday night when the event ended into Monday morning. So Monday morning comes around and I had made some plan. I was waiting to the last second to decide what I was going to do. My plans were head north into Washington, go up to Salmon River and go visit Moscow Moto and maybe make my way up. And anyways, and then head over to Montana, actually was kind of what I decided to do loosely. And I was packing up. It was probably about six trucks left, maybe. me and Missy from why do I always get her name wrong? Lady Overlander. A couple, and a bunch of other people. Anyway, long and short of it is, the last thing to load was my motorcycle, and something went wrong with the motorcycle loader. And I'll have to make a video or something, because we've actually subsequently yesterday we took the motorcycle off the truck to examine the loader and everything, and it looks like it may have been mechanical failure and not user error. I had suspected potentially I had done something to the lift system a couple days before demoing it at the show. But the long and short of it is, I lifted the motorcycle up as it normally does, and then went to slide it into the truck, and it hit something. So I looked down and I saw there's 2 cylinders on it, like how like hydraulic cylinders, like where if your tailgate of your SUV or whatever opens up to hydraulic things. One of them had fallen off and was hitting, so it wouldn't come in. So I was like, oh, that's screwed up. So anyways, I put my hand down in there to try to either move it out of the way so I could pull the motorcycle in, or screw it back on, because it looked like it had popped off where it was screwed on. The user error part of this thing might have been I needed a little more room to get my arm through. So I pushed I don't know if I pushed or used the drill to move the motorcycle thing back, but because the piston had let go, the long and short of it is the motorcycle lifter slid out, and all the weight of the motorcycle and the lifter and everything started going back down the side of the truck. And there's basically 2 train track kind of things. And I got my arm right here where you can see this brace pinched, crushed basically between the 2 pieces of metal, which are about, maybe 1.5 inches thick. And the full weight of the motorcycle and the ramp, which we estimate to be 500 to 600 pounds, was basically crushing my arm. And if there was nobody there, let's say I had been loading this motorcycle out in the woods like I do all the time by myself, one of a couple of things would have happened. Either eventually this thing, because it was getting, as the motorcycle force was going down the ramp, it was increasing the pressure on my arm. So it would either chop my hand off, or the pain, which was significant, I probably would have passed out. And there was no way out. It was like a bear being caught in a bear trap. So there was zero chance of me getting out of this thing. It was crushing. And my arm was just stuck in it. So I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. I just screamed. Apparently I screamed so loud that Reyes here, that is actually still with me over in the truck next door to me here, Exploring Still Connected. He heard me, he said, from inside his truck with his headset on, working on his computer. So I must have screamed pretty loud. And a bunch of them came running, and they eventually were able to either lift. I don't remember. I was almost unconscious. They were able to either lift or push the ramp out of the way to get my arm out. Anyways, to make a longer story longer, they took me to the ambulance came. I went to the hospital, and miracle of miracles, somehow I did not break any bones in this. I went and had x-rays. By the way, shout out to the Bend Hospital. I got into the hospital in the emergency room, got into x-rays. They then determined I did not have a broken bone and sent me to a hand surgeon specialist across the campus in a different building. And I got into him and saw him and got this brace and everything in under 3 hours, which is mind staggering. And so that's kind of what happened. And, luckily it tells you a couple things. If I was this could have been way worse for sure. And so at this point, I was not able to drive my truck. I wasn't able to anything. We ended up staying on the expo grounds way after we were supposed to be vacated. We stayed there till Tuesday afternoon. And I'm now, if I turn around, I'm looking at the expo center. I am still about 200 yards away from where I started this whole job. I'm still at the expo center in Redmond at the RV park. And we were camped here. The swelling has gone down somewhat. They've had me on some heavy anti-inflammatory and painkillers. And then I don't have, unfortunately, I have not regained, like I can move my fingers now, but I cannot really feel my hand. I can't really feel them. So I'm not gotten sense back. And my arm is still swollen. But so that's kind of the story of what happened.
So are you out of the woods when it comes to nerve damage?
No. So unfortunately, the surgeon told me that, I had to wait 48 hours from the accident. At that point, if the swelling was getting worse, he would have to open me up immediately. They were going to go in for surgery, basically to relieve pressure internally in order to make sure that I didn't lose all my nerves. However, the swelling started to go down a little bit, so it's not getting worse. However, the problem is that doesn't mean that I haven't lost nerves permanently. It's hard to assess the damage yet because I'm still swollen. So on Monday I have to check in to see if there could be permanent nerve damage. There could be permanent muscle damage. I don't know. I mean, it was a lot of weight crushing my like when I look down, I still have nightmares. When I look down, like my hand was there, the motorcycle thing slid backwards. And all of a sudden, it was basically like a vice grip coming down on my arm, just above my wrist, and it was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. I lost feeling in my hand almost immediately, seconds. And I don't think I was in the vice grip more than when I screamed. I think they got me out of it 45 seconds to a minute. I was I wasn't being squeezed that long, but it was significant amounts of weight. And we talked about it a lot. I did a little podcast that night with these guys, and we talked about it. You could have a medical kit, which, by the way, I have several medical kits on board, one of which was in my garage, but out of reach. I couldn't have reached it. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have any way to contact anybody. So if I was in the woods, I would have passed out and died eventually, I think, or my hand would have got chopped off. Or you hear stories where people had to saw their own hand off. Like, I don't know what scenario would have been like. I didn't even want to think about it, but it was not good.
So I want to give both sides to this story. One is that's a very singular story that you just told. And most people would be like, well, wow, that was a great story, but I don't have to worry about that. The other side of that is you may not have a mechanism pulling a bike into a truck, but you do have at least a winch. You do have pulleys on your engine. So the lesson to learn is...
You have a truck. You probably have a truck, Phil, where you could get pinned under it if you were changing a tire or trying to jack something up or slide action tracks or max tracks underneath it or something. I mean, there's lots of scenarios. You could be pinned on something.
Right. So the lesson to take away from this, heavy machinery that has pulling power and strength, or it moves, you need to be methodical in the way that you do things. We preach about this all the time. This goes back to why I'm always saying you should be going to Overland Expo and getting some training. One of those trainings is you need a formal education on how to use a winch. And yep. I think the example of what happened to you easily and has happened many times with winches.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. I mean, in my case, there was a series of things that occurred. I can tell you going forward, yesterday when we met, Reyes and I unloaded the motorcycle, it took us, I tell you in videos, I can unload the motorcycle in a minute and a half. Well, it took us 45 minutes to unload the thing because we were looking at every nut and bolt. We were going back slowly. We were out of the way. We had two of us holding stuff. Like, we were being super careful because, like you said, it's a piece of machinery and that's heavy, that moves. So let's put right now, I don't know if it's manufacturing problem or not, but I could put some of the blame on myself. Obviously, I shouldn't have to say this, but don't stick your hand in heavy machinery that moves, which I did. Two, you should be inspecting every single nut and bolt and piece of every machinery, whether it's your winch, whether it's you walk around your truck when you leave the gas station to make sure your lug nuts haven't loosened up. Look under your truck occasionally, make sure that your oil filler plug on your diff thing hasn't loosened up, because God forbid all the oil drains out of the thing. And all of a sudden, I mean, the reason I tell you this is, it happened to me too in Africa. All the oil drained out of my diff, and sure enough, it runs out of fluid, and boom, it seizes up like you've never seen seized, and I slid right off the road, locked up, and boom. So there's a lot of things that you should be looking at from a safety standpoint, and like Phil said, everything that moves, particularly anything that moves, drive shafts move, engine belts move, alternators move, wheels move, winches move, anything that moves is inclined to be potentially have something wrong with it. So lesson learned on my part again. And I'm scared crapless of that thing. And I've been talking about it for a year now. It's my favorite feature of the entire truck is the motorcycle loader. And by the way, I said in a bunch of videos, one of the reasons I switched to this truck is I was always worried about hurting myself on the prior truck with the motorcycle situation, loading it on the back and dropping it on myself. And sure enough, this is the thing that puts me in the hospital. So, and it's not funny because, I had to have these guys drive my truck over here. I'm a mess. I'm much better today where I can move my fingers. So I can hold a cup, but I feel like a 90-year-old. So it's not a fun feeling.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
Yeah. Oh boy. This is now we're on to the injured, damaged, and barely moving podcast. Welcome to the show, folks. So anyways, so to end the story, these guys all helped out. So it's a huge thank you to all the Overland community. Word traveled very fast through the Overland world. Overland Expo. Emily came over repeatedly to check on me. She's the director of operations. She was still there on. She stayed here, I think, in town till Tuesday or Wednesday. Azure checked in. But I got like direct messages and text messages and voicemails and. Oh my God. It was so overwhelming. Finally, I had to put up a statement on Instagram because I didn't know what else to do because I couldn't get back to everybody. It was just unbelievable. People were trying to cancel their plane flights out of here to come back. My buddy Gary was like, I'll just cancel my flight out and I'll come back. And we've been offered places to stay here in Redmond and down the road. So lots of support. And then these guys, Deidre and Reyes, have been with me the whole time. They're camped next to me still, so they've been my medical support team. And ironically, they were actually having a problem with their vehicle as well. They have a liquid spring system on their truck, and it was deflating itself. And so they're still working on some of that. So we're still waiting on some parts. So we're in Redmond. But I think by next week I'll be able to drive the truck. I definitely probably will not be able to ride the motorcycle. So a bunch of my upcoming plans to do some of the BDR and stuff is definitely not going to happen. So change of plans.
Have they removed any of the stuff from Overland Expo? Are they cleared out totally yet?
Oh, that was cleared out almost immediately. Yeah, they're actually setting up. They did fireworks last night for July 4th here at the Expo Center. So we had front row seats for that. And then they're setting up for, I believe next week, there's a big country music festival concert going on here. So it sounds like the Expo Center is very busy.
You should go to the Country Expo, bro. If you're still around.
But we've been joking about it. Is like we're all ready for Overland Expo Pacific Northwest 2025. We'll still be here. We're just going to stay this season, and we'll just become permanent fixtures. Because literally, I've been in town here since last Tuesday. I'm still here. I never would have guessed I've been here a week and a half or going on 2 weeks already. So it wasn't part of the plan, guys. But you got to roll with the punches, and it could have been way worse. I mean, for sure. Like when I say my hand was just about chopped off, I unfortunately am not exaggerating.
So let's recap Overland Expo.
Let's talk about it.
According to the official numbers, there were over 16,000 attendees.
Yep.
Now, what sticks out to me about that number is the venue is so nice and it is set up so well, you never feel overwhelmed with people. And there were 16,000 people there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful venue. I'm looking at it right now, and they've got the sprinkler. For those of you who have never been here, it's a round fairgrounds with buildings so a lot of the facility, the actual bathrooms are real permanent bathrooms. There's actually showers on the facility. The lawn is irrigated for real because they had held off the sprinklers in the area that we were parked at because we were there so long. Right. So the rest of it, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they have a lawn that you want to lay in.
Yeah, it's like a golf course. Really nice setup. Super friendly staff. Like they even offered, to be honest, after I got injured when we came back, they had offered to move. We needed to get out of that secure area because they were setting up for the fireworks. But they had offered that we could camp behind the horse barn or whatever. So, everybody came together on that. But the great staff. By the way, the RV park here that is attached in part of the expo center here is wonderful. The people are amazing. Really nice facility. Bathrooms are great. So we're not suffering from that standpoint. You know, we got laundry and we've got showers and everything going on here. So it's pretty nice.
What stuck out to you about Expo? And when I say stuck out, it doesn't have to be some major thing, just something that stuck out to you.
I've said this before on our podcast, the Pacific Northwest show in particular. I feel like the quality of people that attend here is high, meaning that they're not tire kickers. It's not just a big, loose party. These are people coming. They're really interested. I've noticed that there's a very high percentage of people that came through. I was located in the storytelling creator area. The amount of people that came through that were newbies or first timers was staggering, which was amazing to see. And it goes along to what I'm saying about the quality of the attendance. It's not as overwhelming or as chaotic as Expo down in Flagstaff, Arizona, where that's just, you're talking about 30,000 people, and it's the venue is not as I would just say it's not as organized. It's not a nice round golf course. So it's more chaotic down there for sure. It's very confusing in some ways. This is a pleasure to be at. Like really, my main takes on this event were the newbies that I saw, the quality of the people, and by the way, the participants. There was a lot of quality rigs to see. I did a walk around the in the outer campings. I call it the Gen Pop area. The camping zone had some really interesting and cool stuff to look at. They had an off-road course here, which they did not have in Flagstaff. So remember, they got rid of that. So that was a little bit different. They had a Land Rover thing going on, I think that was on Saturday on the course. The food truck situation is pretty good. My disappointments are probably the same as always. There's too many gadgets and gadgets for my liking. Too much focus on stuff, and there should be. This is just me babbling. More focus on training and more focus on the community. And for me, obviously, I come for it's like a reunion for all of us. Shit, we didn't mention Phil. It was a year since you and I were together in the flesh at the same time this past weekend.
Ironically, at the same place.
And, how do I say this? You get some riffraff and chatter offline or online, I should say, but out of the venue and in the venue, people, there's always going to be moaners and groaners, that the event has become corporate. In some respects, I like that. It's very organized. They've got their crap together. I just remember some of the old days. It's even like some stupid things. Like you come in, you get your badge. It's plastic. It's got your name printed on it. I remember the old days where it was like this paper badge that if, God forbid it, sprinkled a little bit, it started falling off and disintegrating, and your name, you didn't have a name, you had to write it on with a pen. And, there's certain things that have become better because it's been more modernized and more corporate. And I think the signage is better.
The wait to get in.
Yeah.
Significant. You really don't wait.
No, don't wait. No, it's pretty organized. I missed Eva, the voice of Expo. She wasn't here first time. I missed that.
Very surreal feeling, not having her there.
Yep. It was different for sure. But then there's some new good stuff. They had the women of what was it? The
Women Who Wander.
Women Who Wander, right? We were joking. The Men Who Meander is coming next, but Women Who Wander, little event that was put on Friday night that happened to be right in front of my truck, so it was convenient for us to kind of watch. It was kind of cool. I mean, men were invited to it as well.
And for the ladies who are listening, some of the big name attendees were Patty Upton, Connie Redmond, Azure O'Neill, Candy Skihan, Cara McClellan.
Yeah, so a lot of quality people. Some of them have done the Rebel Rally. Patty Upton had gone around the world. So a lot of different folks there, and it was kind of a casual event. It was cool. It replaced, which was a little sad for me. Also, no moto party. The motorcycle, that was kind of a bummer too about this expo. The moto presence was definitely at an all-time low, largely because the same weekend the Tour Tech rally was going on up in Plain, Washington. So I was a little bummed about that. Like, because the people on two wheels definitely bring some interesting character and some fun to these expos, and stories. And stories. So I was disappointed by that. I think Expo has maybe dropped. I don't say dropped the ball is a strong word, but I think that more could be done to get the moto crowd involved. I'll leave it at that. I think I'd like to see that.
Would it be, you think, is the two-wheel industry big enough to business-wise be of concern to them?
No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, I think they could probably let most of the moto crowd go and it probably wouldn't affect it too much. But and maybe that's a short-sighted statement and in a short-sighted way, because maybe over time it would. I think the moto crowd would aid in the continued development of the event, and it keeps the character of the event. So I think it's important from that standpoint. It's just like, why would you bring Patty Upton in as an example? I mean, it's an easy answer for me. Like, she's what grounds this event and roots it in the origins of what we all aspire to do, which is travel and explore. And those are the things that, people like her and others do. So, that obviously takes the focus off. I don't think Patty, and if you looked at her Jeep, you would realize she's not super interested in the gadgets that are going on out in the vendor area. Because, I mean, she's living proof that you can do it without all of that. So I think that those kinds of things, it brings me back to the days of Jonathan and Roseanne back in Mormon Lake and the early days of Overland Expo, where it was really, let's all gather around a campfire and tell stories about where we went, swap stories and swap locations. And, hey, what are you doing with your truck? Yeah, I'm doing this and this, and it was way more basic. So, I like keeping it grounded like that. And I think the two-wheel moto people, because they live such a Spartan rough existence, particularly the ones that stay, on the bike, that travel full time or a lot of the time, they bring that by just the definition of what they do. Because I could be in a 4-wheel drive vehicle today, and it's way different than Patty Upton's 4-wheel drive Jeep from the 80s, right? The motorcycles, although the motorcycle might have more technology today, you're still exposed on 2 wheels out in the open. Like that hasn't changed too much.
Well, I think they should play a more significant part in the industry, and it's very simple. They are overlanding. They are overlanding in its most simplistic form. And let's say I was in the Corvette community. Well, I don't want to be in a Corvette community that only recognizes from 1970 to 1980. I want all of the Corvettes. Same thing with overlanding. I may not be on 2 wheels. I may not be on one, or I may not be in a big truck like yours, but I want all of it there. I want to, because there's a like-mindedness, and I don't want to be cheated.
Right. Yeah, I agree. We talked about this on, I had done a podcast with some other people the other day, and, overlanding, by definition to me, is self-sustaining on your own, through your own devices, and controlling your own travel, whether it's on 1 wheel, 2 wheel, 3 wheel, 6 wheel. It doesn't really matter what vehicle. In fact, you could argue that a bicycle or a sailboat is overlanding in a sense. I mean, as long as you're in control. I guess it's the difference between you being in control of something and planning your trip and going and exploring and getting on a commercial airplane or a Royal Caribbean yacht. That's would be the difference, right?
And that's a good example. Like, in my personal definition, the only thing that I disagreed with was the sea part, because I consider land, sea, I divided up like that. But if I went to an industry event or something and they were there, I would be happy to see them.
Yeah.
I'd rather for them to be there than to hear that they were not included.
Right. Yeah, so I mean that is one of the things I most like about Overland Expo. You mentioned the word; it's all inclusive. You've seen over the years it has morphed a little bit more into overland rigs, which started out as Jeeps and Land Rovers, and it's gone into big trucks like mine. It's gone into van life. We have Sprinter vans and the like. I'm camped with these guys next to me. They have a truck camper, which is sort of halfway between, they've got a Ford F550. So it's a single platform truck that is certainly an overland rig, but then they have a truck camper on the back of it. So there's somewhere in between, quote, RVing and overland, right? I mean, I would consider it to be overland, but, RVing and van life and schoolie, and we've talked about this, and any nomad or whatever, it's kind of the same thing, right? We're all going out doing the same thing. We're exploring. But I could say it a million times on this podcast. We're going camping, right?
I agree, bro. Mike, I wanted to have this special podcast, not just because it was July 4th, but I wanted people to quit bugging me and get an update on your health. And I looked into the news, and you weren't the only calamity going on. It seems like people are being really reckless, and a lot of things are happening. Did you hear about the shark attacks in Texas?
Yep.
4 of them.
Yep. I saw that. I saw there was also a woman that fell into a geyser.
Oh, I didn't hear about that one. Spit it.
I don't know. Well, I just caught the side of that story. I don't know. It was not big Old Faithful. I believe it was in Yellowstone or something.
Oh, God.
But Yellowstone. Oh, and then this morning, actually, Reyes told me, I'd have to Google it right now on my phone. He told me that there was a shooting in Yellowstone Park.
Yep.
Did you see that?
Yeah, during the early hours of Thursday morning. It was an incident at Canyon Village in the central part of Yellowstone National Park. There was a report that there was a guy with a gun. Park rangers came. They ended up contacting the individual. They exchanged gunfire. There's a park ranger injured in the hospital, and the individual making the threats with the gun is deceased.
I mean, I'm not
That's
sure where the world is
crazy.
coming to when people are firing on park rangers. Like, I mean, are you kidding me?
And
we got to do something different. We got to do something. I don't want to turn this political because we always get animated when we do that. But like, guys, what is wrong with our country when somebody is got a gun in Yellowstone Park shooting at the park ranger? What in the actual hell?
I can't think of the word for it right now, but you're familiar with the Appalachian Trail, right?
I've hiked like 3/4 of the Appalachian Trail, actually.
Well, there are some people like me who, when they are four-wheeling it on these trails or nearby trails and camping in similar areas, we share our food and resources with them. And one common conversation that I have heard over and over again since 1996 was the fear of taking this Appalachian Trail trip, because in 1996 there was a murder on on the trail.
Yeah.
Well, they have finally solved that case. So if a person had any fear about that, you don't have to worry about that any longer. He was a convicted rapist. He died in prison. And basically, to keep it short, through DNA evidence, they discovered him. He was from Ohio. So you doing the trail, you never had conversations about this, or did you do it before 96?
Well, now that you brought it up, I do remember it. I've done parts of it before and after 96, actually, but
well, that's a common fireside chat.
It was in Virginia, wasn't it? Was it in Virginia?
Yes, Shenandoah National Park.
That's what I thought. Yep.
That's a common fireside chat that I have heard them talk about, whether it being jokingly or a true concern.
And we've talked about this on the podcast a million times. You know, joking is a form of, like, you know, there's truth to it, right?
Oh yeah.
And you know, we talk about that all the time. You know, if it's in the news, you know, I call it the Fox News CNN syndrome. You gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Well, this kind of connects with the prediction I made a few podcasts ago. I foresee this happening in the Overland community one day. I don't want it to happen, but I really feel that's going to happen.
Well, let's cross our fingers and it doesn't. We got enough based on me and my arm. We've got enough problems that could end life outside of us killing each other.
Did you see the fight between the tourists for a selfie at Mount Everest?
Unfortunately, I did see that story as well. I mean, some of this stuff you just can't make up.
So tourists were filmed getting into a brawl for the best selfie spot on Mount Everest. The Sherpa was going to take pictures down below, and they didn't like the order they were lined up for their picture, and they literally got into a fight. So that's how big selfies have gotten. People have died and fought over selfies.
On that note, people have also died taking selfies.
Right.
It's one of the biggest, you know, happenings or events. Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Oh yeah, they were at the edge of the cliff taking a selfie and gone.
I'm pretty sure it's top 5 reasons for injuries and deaths in national parks.
Yeah, falling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know what number 1 is? It's driving.
Yeah. Which is what we, you know, I teach the, and I did here at Pacific Northwest Overland Expo, the Baja class, you know, talking about traveling down to Baja, and that's what we tell people. The number one danger, because, you know, based on that CNN Fox News theory, people ask about cartels and they ask about safety and they ask about, you know, crooked police and all this other stuff. And I tell them, look, the number one cause of any problem that you're going to have likely is driving.
You.
Yeah, is you. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I actually have some statistics. Half of all reported deaths are due to unintentional causes, and motor vehicle crashes, drownings, and falls are the top 3 leading causes of unintentional deaths in the parks, in that order. Half of medical deaths occurred while the individual was engaged in a physical activity, hiking, biking, and swimming. Suicides account for 93% of all reported intentional deaths. Now that's weird. That seems like that would be 100, wouldn't it?
Well, maybe intentional, I guess, counts murder. That'd be intentional. Maybe.
But it says suicides account for 93% of all reported. What other intentional death could you? I don't know. What is?
This is where we go off the rails.
Am I making sense, or do I sound stupid right now?
No,
Let me know.
I think murder would be intentional. So murder is not suicide. So if suicide is 93%, murder would be the other 7, maybe. I don't know what other intentional it would be.
Yeah, because I was taking it as killing yourself.
Yeah, killing yourself. Yeah.
Okay, so the rest of them, you killed someone else.
Right.
And that actually goes with statistics, because actually all these numbers I'm giving you is 0.11 of 1% a chance that you would die in a national park.
Right. It's a good thing, by the way. We're not doing this podcast live too, because as we speak live, no, I'm not going to say it.
Oh, I don't. Okay.
So I'm on my computer here, obviously, and I'm getting I get news flashes that come along the top of the screen. It says social media slams Biden for answer to whether he watched the debate or not. He does not know. He does not remember whether he watched the debate last week, because you've heard Phil and I talk about the debate. Oh boy.
Bro, listen to me. That's nothing. Did you hear that he had a special meeting with the governors?
The governors, sure.
He said that the reason why he wasn't doing well is that he's not getting enough sleep.
Right.
And he won't do business after 8 o'clock.
Yeah. So
the world leader has business hours.
That's right. Yeah. That definitely instills me with an incredible amount of confidence in his stamina and his vibrance. And yeah.
So basically, if there's an attack on America at
do it after 8,
right?
Just do it after 8,
and you got it free until the morning, until about 6 a.m. because he does get up early.
I better turn off my news notifications, because I don't. God knows what he might say next. That's why I said, good thing we're not doing this podcast live. Nobody be watching us. Everybody be on ABC News right now, watching which, by the way, this is an interesting statement. Also off topic. Here we go. Whoa. Somebody's talking to me. See, there they go. Now they're talking to me. Off topic, but it's an interesting statement of America when, the news headlines basically right now are, this interview tonight is a make or break it for him. He's got an ABC News interview tonight. And if he fails this one after that massive debate, he's done for, and we got to find somebody new. So we've now narrowed down, and I'm not suggesting that they may not, maybe they're right on that, but we've narrowed down, in an hour increments, so 1 hour of your performance is going to judge basically the future of America, potentially. That's scary as shit as it is.
I agree.
So it's really? So if he does good on tonight's, and that doesn't make any sense either, by the way. So if he does good in tonight's interview, that means it's all okay. He's back to normal. Okay. I don't know about that. And if he does bad, he's toast. I mean, wow.
Biden did so bad that for the first week in a long time, Trump hasn't been in the news.
I know.
He has been continually every day in the news.
I know.
It's like he isn't even running right now. It's so quiet.
I know.
Everybody on both sides is focused on Biden.
Right. Yeah, and I would imagine we're going to know in the next, probably maybe by the next time we record a podcast, Biden's either going to be out or in.
Oh, no, he's going to be out. And I'll tell you what. Oh,
we got a podcast prediction here live. Phil.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to give a little education if you're wondering where I coming from with this.
Okay. So you didn't know you were going to turn into an Overland podcast and have a prediction from the host as to whether Biden drops out of the race or not. But here we go.
Elections are driven by money from more than one direction. People's feeling about the economy is one side of it. And then it's the powers that be that fund the people who run for the elections. And it's the employees that are getting paid while these elections are run. And then all of those things combined, when they stop funding the money, or when they start saying, I'm not going to give anymore until you do something about the candidate, everybody panics. There's too much pressure now. And people who are significant donors have said, unless something is done, there's no more money. When they start talking money, that's when you see the change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what I was talking about.
Why do you think, wasn't it very unusual to turn on the news after the debate and to see liberal pundits just totally just destroy the candidate? Because they realized, I financially can't back this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. Now there's been a number of politicians come out. There's been a number of big donors that have talked about it. So when there's that discussion starts, it's like a snowball. It is hard to stop. So you're saying that he's going to drop out. He is not going to make it to the convention.
Well, the latter part, he ain't gonna make it to the convention. I don't know how that happens.
Okay.
Like we've had that conversation too.
In fairness, I don't want to leave one half of the co-hosting and the other guy not say anything. So I am going to come out, if we're doing it, I am going to come out and agree with you. I do not believe that he makes it to the convention either. In fact, I'm inclined to believe that the end is very close. I think it's going to be, I think it's a big problem, like huge problem.
Call me stupid, call me a conspiracy theorist, but ain't no president ever ran America, and the people who run America, they not feeling Biden right now. They not supporting him financially. And when the money dries up, you out. And that's whatever level of government you are in.
And let's cut to the chase. I don't know that write into us and put comments down there if you actually support Biden, because my belief is that no one supports him. There are 50% of the country wants to vote against Trump and will vote for Biden to be as an anti-Trump vote. And I think there's 50% of the country that legitimately want Trump. But I think we're pretty evenly divided there. But I'm not sure that anybody really wants Biden. I think that it's an anti-Trump thing. I think if they could pick anybody or have anybody else, they would go for it.
I really haven't heard anybody go against the things that he says. It's more his personality and the way he delivers things. It was something new when he first came on the scene for a person to talk the way he talks. And there really hasn't been anyone else who's been able to come along and be that rambunctious on the mic.
Yeah, so, I forgot who posted it the other day. It was one of the news guys. They posted like basically 5 minutes of Biden talking in the last election and 5 minutes of him talking in this one. And then they did the same thing for Trump.
I saw that.
Trump seems like the same human being. Like he really hasn't changed much at all. Like just the bottom line, he just hasn't changed. Whether you like him or not, he's still the same guy. Biden seemed like an entirely different human being. Like entirely different. He doesn't even look the same. It's staggering
this discussion we're having is very concerning. And the reason is because we're not having a discussion really about who is the one with the better ethics and morals and the things they want to establish for the country are the best. We're basically like one is healthier than the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Which doesn't in itself necessarily make you inelectable as a president, but one is physically healthy. Let's just say that. I'll give Trump physically healthy.
I'm probably one of the few people my age that I would prefer to see somebody like about in the 40 to 50-year-old range running for president. Just
me too.
You're just old enough. You're just young enough.
Yep, me too. Look, we got a minimum age to run for president. We should probably have a maximum age, and that's just the reality. And that's, you can call it what you want, discrimination or not. I mean, to me, you're discriminating if you don't let somebody under 35 run for president. So what's the difference if you cut it off at 70 or whatever other number you want to come up with? It's just a fact. And I think to represent the bulk of the people, the citizens of the United States, I think somebody that's more middle-aged or even younger middle-aged would be more representative of our total population. So, I'd love to see somebody between 35 and 50, really. Like that's where I'd like to see them. And I just think that, let's put it this way. We're wasting an awful lot of time discussing, is this guy healthy enough, both physically and mentally, to do the job? I mean, we shouldn't even be having this discussion.
That's what I'm saying.
By the way, that's for either one of them. That's not just Biden. That's Trump too, because Trump is not young either. So it's like, and he says some crazy shit and rambles on about stuff that sometimes gets names wrong. It doesn't make sense either. So this is not a one-sided thing on Biden. This is simply like, but we're wasting a lot of time. We got bigger problems.
The age thing, I'm not just looking at the health component.
Nope.
You reach a certain age where your ideals about the world are no longer poignant. They're no longer important. They're no longer, they're definitely not current.
Yeah.
And you are basically pushing views that are archaic on a younger society that you ain't going to be here for.
Right.
And then there's also a callousness that we don't like to talk about. The older you get, you have a callousness toward some of the foolishness of young people.
Yep.
Which is not a good thing.
No, that's true. That's true. I'm in the middle, right? But I mean, my brain occasionally goes, "Oh my God, what are these young kids doing? That's just so stupid."
And nobody wants to talk about this, but there are older people out here who literally think like they toss stuff out their window when they're driving because they're like, "Hey, I won't be here when this actually goes into effect." When they hear about that there's been a 1.5 degree increase in temperature across the world, they're like, "Hey, well, it could go up. Even if it goes up a few more degrees, I'll be all right because I won't be here."
Yeah.
So you need somebody with some skin in the game.
Correct. That's right. Yeah. That's got young kids, that is younger, that's going to be around hopefully a lot longer. And they're concerned whether or not if it goes up a degree each year. So yeah, from many different standpoints, environmental, conservative, of our land, to bring it back to, we're on an Overland podcast. I want somebody that is young, vibrant, and can look at stuff with an open mind. And that's, by the way, I mean, that's the biggest problem that we got going on is the two current candidates that we have, nothing is being looked at with an open mind. I mean, nothing. So.
And I can directly correlate this with overlanding. One of the biggest topics that's discussed amongst us all is land management and land rights, ability to camp and whatever. I want somebody who understands that you can telecommute to work and that there are a lot of people that desire to do that and that this is a hustle economy. And that it would be conducive to make those lands open to people who don't want to live the structured, old-fashioned lifestyle of a picket fence, 2.5 kids, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we talked about that. Like, public land, of which a lot of the United States is, there needs to be balance somewhere in the middle. So we've talked about this on other podcasts where nomads can utilize that land, but also cattle ranchers and mining and oil and gas exploration and maybe lithium for batteries or, solar farms or wind farms, or, there's a combination, there's different stuff, but it's somewhere in the middle. It's somewhere in the middle. Look, our land is probably one of the most important things in America, and we can utilize it to be the top dog in the world, right? And if we're going to be self-sufficient from a water, from food, from energy, from all of these perspectives, it comes from the land. So as Americans, the land is the most important thing. So, that's going to bring it back to overlanding right now, because we've talked about this many times, and that's the candidate that I think we should be getting ourselves behind. And unfortunately, and here comes the political part out of Mike, I think our current administration is not in the middle on that. They are one-sided on that. And by the way, and to many extents, both candidates are not in the middle on that. The only thing I would say positive about the Trump side of the candidate is I think, and maybe not for the right reasons, but I think he is definitely more American centric and wants the country to be more self-sustaining without influence from China or wherever else. So that's the only thing I would say about that. The way you do it and the way he does it, and I'm not suggesting that he's the ideal situation. Let's just say that without getting ourselves too deep in this.
So we're going to end it here, Mike.
Before we get in big trouble.
So it was 2 years that we did this podcast before it ended. And
which, by the way, we're working on an anniversary show. It's been 2 years since Phil and I have been doing this together.
And I haven't told Mike, but I've been working on some prizes that when we do the show, we're gonna do it up big. We might have to figure out. You might still be here, so we might have to do it live.
That's right. We better do it before the election. No. Now we got to do it before the convention. We don't have a lot of time here.
Any last words, Mike?
Oh boy, get me out of here. My last words are thank you very much to the entire Overland community for getting me through this week. This was probably one of the hardest. This was definitely the hardest week that I've had in my 4 years of being full-time on the road. And I don't know, I definitely would not have been able to do it without a team of soldiers.
Word. And Mike, I wanted to wait till we were on camera to tell you this, but I didn't even really need to talk to you to find out what was going on. I was getting a minute by minute update on what was going on, getting speculation. You discussed where there were people who were thinking about not taking flights. Well, I literally had talked to people who had landed and were somewhere else talking about coming back to help you, and they were trying to find out what was going on with you. So I guess the love is real for you, bruh.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. I am good, other than the fact that I can't necessarily feel all of these fingers right here. I could be much worse.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.